Want to know what Imperial Knights can do but don't have a couple of hours to watch a video? I'll tell you everything you need to know in under 5 minutes. Overall, the Codex looks good and not overpowered, a nice synergy with the Chaos Knights Codex. It seems that armigers are much more key to lists now, with some great buffs available to them. Titanic feet have been nerfed and no longer multiply attacks, you need special melee weapons now for that. There are improvements to building and including knights in your armies. Iron shields are against ranged attacks only now. Rotate Iron Shield Strat is 2 CP and only affects ranged. Knight movement has been reduced, and advance and charge has been removed. Some army-wide rules. Titanic models count as 10 objectives, and armigers count as 5 and are also obsec. There are 2 main classes for knights that you can choose from. You've got Mechanicus and Imperialis. The general buffs that Mechanicus gives is a 2+ wounds for Titanic and an additional 1 for armigers, and they can also heal 1 wound per turn. For Imperialis, it's +1 to advance and charge, and they also get to ignore modifiers to move, advance and charge. And rather underwhelmingly, an additional 1 inch to piling and consolidation. And for more army-wide buffs, they have the Cold Chivalric. This is for pure knights only. At the start of the game, you choose 2 oaths, and through the game, you can either gain or lose honour points. Depending on how many honour points you've built up, this will affect how many of the buffs you receive. You receive 1 buff for the honoured status, and 2 if you've reached virtuous. Each oath you pick has a pledge and a troth, and this is essentially what you need to do to get your honour points. It's possible that with 2 oaths, you'll end up with 4 special buffs applied to the whole army, but it does mean quite a bit more bookkeeping. Without going into all the detail, here's an example. The pledge, you destroy 2 or more enemy units in melee, and the troth, if you fall back, you lose an honour point. The honoured stage buff is +1 attack in the first round of melee, and the virtuous buff is advance and charge. Bondsman Abilities, special buffs that affect armigers. If an armiger is within 12 inches of a knight, then it can receive an extra buff, but it can only have 1 buff applied to it at any time. A good example is to allow it to reroll all hits and wounds of 1. If the army has achieved honoured status and the armiger is given a Bondsman ability, then it also gets -1 damage. Warlord Traits, 6 available in addition to the household ones, and probably the best couple are Iron Bulwark, it's a 4+ invuln against ranged attacks, and Knight Seneschal is +1 attack, and it still counts as honoured even if the army isn't anymore. Relics, 15 available in addition to the household ones. Lots of really good options here. Some of the best ones are Sanctuary for 4+ invuln against melee, Banner of Macharis Triumph, the model gains obsec, and importantly, gains +1 honours a turn. Considering how powerful the honour buffs are, this is really useful. And Bastard's Helm, this is where 2 armigers can swap their Bondsman ability for a +1 to wound for all their attacks instead. Knightley Teachings, a bit like Chaplain Litanies. You have to roll a 3+ to activate them, and it only affects armiger models. Probably the best one of all the teachings is a Knight's Faith. It's a 6-inch aura of a 6+, feel no pain, but this can actually be buffed up to a 5. The Exalted Court points-based upgrade system. There's 10 available, 5 for each knight class, and they can only be applied to character knights. You get 3 benefits from each upgrade. Firstly, a knight can use its Bondsman ability an additional time. The knight also gets a buff, and then it gets an extra buff depending on whether it's honoured. So picking 2 of the best, you've got the Herald for 20 points. The primary buff is the upgraded Herald can broadcast the Bondsman abilities even further. And if the army is honoured, then it can give out a 4+ invuln save for ranged and melee to one of its bondsmen. Forge Master for 30 points. This is one for a backfield knight, and it gives it a -1 damage while it stays within its deployment zone. Also, if it's honoured, then its bondsman armigers get a +1 to hit and wound against things in the deployment zone. Households. There are actually 9 available spread across Mechanicus and Imperialis. Each has a buff, Warlord Trait, Relic and Stratagem, but there's loads to cover, so I'll pick out just 2 of the best of a very good selection. House Tyrannus. The buff is a 6+ feel no pain. The trait is once per game, you can change a hit, wound, advance or damage roll to a 6. This is after rolling. And if the army is virtuous, then you can do this once per turn. The Relic increases all melt weapons by 1 strength and always engages the +2 damage. And the Strat are Darkest Hour for 1 or 2 CP. Once per game, you can stand up a destroyed knight on a 4+. House Crast. The buff is 6s to hit in melee, also wound, 5s against Titanic models. The Warlord trait is +1 to weapon skill, and you gain an extra virtuous ability. The Relic gives +1 damage against vehicles and monsters, and +1 to wound against Titanic. And the Strat, controlled aggression for 1 CP, is +1 attack and an extra 1 of AP in melee, and that's for 1 Titanic knight or 2 armigers. You also have the Freeblade option. This is where a knight can be independent of a household. Instead, they choose a martial tradition, which gives them a buff. They don't receive the Mechanicus of the Imperialis abilities in this. And while there are 16 options available, there's actually stiff competition against the households. I'd say 2 of the best are Noble Combatants. For the smash attack on knight weapons, any attack that didn't reach the inflict damage stage generates another attack. And Strike and Shield, hits of 1 to 3 always fail, and you ignore AP -1 in melee. Stratagems. Loads of strats available, and as I've said already, you lose advance and charge, and rotate iron shields is more expensive. Some of the best though are Noble Sacrifice for 1 to 3 CP, where you get to auto-explode a knight, Linebreaker for 1 CP, 6-inch consolidation in any direction. This is great free movement and can be also used to consolidate out of a fight so they can't even hit you back. Full Tilt for 1 CP, Auto-advance armages 9 inches or Titanic models 6 inches. Martial Prowess for 1 or 2 CP. +1 to the armor save in melee, and since knights don't get an invuln in combat, this is actually pretty useful. Lots of strong combos to create killer knights, but nothing too broken at this stage. If you want to support the channel, then please like this video and check out our membership deals. See you again soon, bye!